Hey guys, welcome back to The Only Way is Beastly. Today what we've got is a Jawa 350 Twin Sport, 1988 model, and this old girl has developed a bit of a leak on the side case slash gearbox. So after a few weeks of riding, the gearbox is then completely empty. We're going to take the side case off, inspect the gasket, possibly replace, and find out where the oil leak's coming from. Stay tuned. For this job, nearly all the tools you'll need can be found in it's not a basic, a little bit more than basic socket set. So if you've got, for this obviously you need a flathead screwdriver for these, and then obviously there's a couple of sockets for other different little bits and bobs, and obviously sometimes you do need a pair of pliers just to undo things like the tacho cable there. But we'll see if we can see how far we can get with what we've got, and if there is any extra tools that we need that we haven't got here, I'll then go and get those, and then we can work on those after that. Right guys, the first thing to do is straight away undo your tacho drive right there. It should be done by hand. If you need anything other than the hand, like a pair of pliers, it's too tight. Hence the description video of what you need. And then the other thing is remove the gear shift and kickstart. That's an 11mm. Right guys, what we're doing now is we're undoing all the lower pins to hopefully be able to drain, if there is any oil left in there, to drain that out to inspect the gasket. Now I am using an impact driver to remove these screws, but when replacing them, putting them back in, do not use an impact driver, because it will just really destroy the threads and the screws. Is when I do the rebuild, I'll do the rebuild by hand. Right guys, we've undone the side case and we've got the side panel off. And now, straight away, I can see that this hasn't been cleaned very well when it was put back on from the previous restoration of the previous owner. And also, this gasket that is in place here, as it's already been torn in places. And again, the surface that it marries up to hasn't been cleaned, so that could be the cause of the oil leak. While we're in here, we'll have a look at all the other different parts, like this chain, the gear shift mechanism, the clutch. The clutch will be inspected, but that's not part of this video. That might be a part of another video in the future. But right now, it looks like the cause of this oil leak is the human error of not cleaning the surfaces when installing the gasket. Right guys, as you can see, this is obviously the chain case side. One of the best ways and easiest ways to clean these surfaces is actually with a blade. And what you do is obviously you put the blade on, you just slowly go around scraping all the dirt off and making sure that the surface is nice and perfectly clean. As you can see there's quite a bit of dirt coming off, and you just carry on and go around the whole thing. Right guys, both surfaces have been taken down and cleaned. We did find a split in the gasket, but then I've also found a nick in the aluminium casing where someone's been a bit of a thug with a screwdriver trying to prise them apart and actually put a dent in the surface. And it's considered a bit like wearing belt and braces at the same time, but I always do it with older engines and I've never had a problem with it. I know a lot of older boys that do it as well, and it's to use I use the Loctite. It's silicon gasket. Just put a light smearing on top of these old rigid gaskets, and it just helps to give them a seal, because especially when you've had someone in there like a thug with a screwdriver and they put an indent into the casting, at the side of the engine. These gaskets aren't designed to squish that well into there. They are designed to squish a bit, but they're not going to cover where a thug's been with a screwdriver. So I always put a little bit of silicone to help it give a good seal. And that's what we'll do. Is what you need to do is you can apply it to the engine, but it's a lot harder because obviously gravity is going to be grabbing the silicone, trying to pull it down. So what I do is I make sure I've got the gasket so it goes on the right way round, and then I put the silicone onto the gasket, then put the gasket on, and then I put the silicone onto the side case, and then marry the two together. So with this one, it comes with a handy little tool to help you do it. So you just start it off, and you just spread it around nice and evenly all the way around. Right guys, siliconed up, ready to go back together. The gasket is in place. The one main thing to make sure you get done properly and don't screw it up is to make sure that you get the gear shift mechanism and the kickstart located inside there properly. Now this can be a bit tricky to do, and yeah, just give a good go at it. There we go, that's located. And then, there you go, press it home, make sure it is located properly, and line it up. You do have dowels around the casing, which helps with lining it up. Obviously, start all your screws slowly and by hand, because you don't want to be pinching the gasket or crossing any threads. Right guys, obviously our case is back on now, just reassembling the screws. They've all been put in, and now it's just a case of just checking that they're all torqued up and they're all nice and tight. There is a torque setting which you'll find in your manual, and what we'll do is, if we can find it, we'll put it up on screen, but just make sure it's tight enough. Just a little bit past hand tight. There we go. And as you'll notice, is one of the little tricks that you can do is when holding a ratchet, is you can adjust how much torque you're putting on it, because if you hold it at the top here, you're putting a lot less torque than if you hold it at the bottom here and you're really wrenching on it. And what you'll see is a lot of the time, is in a lot of the builds that I do, is I'll put my hands up here, just steady it, and just give it a tweak, just like that. And that there, that is just enough to hold everything tight. And what you do is you go around it, and just make sure everything is nice and tight. And what you can see is, as you can see, as I do the silicone as well as the gaskets, and the one way you can tell if you've got a good seal is because you'll have a nice ooze all the way around the chain case. It might be more in other places, but as long as there's no gaps, it's all good. Then what you can do is you can just take a rag, and while the silicone is still wet, just wipe it away. Right guys, as you can see, I've moved the light down to the bottom. There is a fill level plug just here, and then the fill cap, as you remove that, remove the fill level plug, and then what you do is you insert oil through the top until it trickles out the fill level hole down here. And there you go guys, as you can see there's a slow trickle coming out of the hole. So you just put the level plug back in. There you go, you just put that in there nice and snug and replace the filler cap. And then after about 50 or 60 miles or so, I always recommend that you check all the tension and all the torque settings and all that lot. But yeah, the last thing to do on the rebuild is to just re-screw in the tacho drive for the tachometer. That just goes in there like that. And just screws in there. Just give it a little pinch by hand. You shouldn't need any tools for that. Then all that's left to do is reinstall the gear shift. Now what is handy on this one is from a previous build and a previous rebuild, the position has actually been stamped on there for where it needs to go to be back to where it was. And then it's a case of just wiggle it into place and then replace the bolt into the bottom. And remember, on this model it is 11mm. I've come across some where they've got 10, 8, some have had 12 where basically the bolt's been lost and they replaced it with whatever they can find to fit. But in this case, this one is an 11mm.